All right, so today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to dive into a story. It's about that feeling, you know the one, when financial pressure gets so intense that even your own mailbox starts to feel like an enemy. It's a story about finding just one single moment of clarity right in the middle of all that chaos. Let's get into it.
So our story kicks off with a simple, almost universal act: avoiding the mail. It's such a powerful signal of anxiety, isn't it? It wasn't that she didn't care what was in those envelopes. It's that she cared way, way too much.
This first part of the story, it's all about that mounting pressure. A world where every single letter, every document starts to feel less like information and more like a final judgment.
You know, it never really starts with a bang, does it? It's more of a quiet creep. A bill gets put to the side, one late fee, well, it doesn't seem so bad until suddenly it's two. Then the calls start. And that phrase, just a reminder, it's not cruel, but it's not kind either. It's that impersonal, relentless drip, drip, drip of pressure that just drains you. And this wasn't about being irresponsible. It was about being completely and totally overwhelmed.
And right here, this is where everything shifts. It's not just about math or budgets anymore. The numbers printed on the page, they transform into something else. They feel like a final verdict on her entire situation, making it all seem completely inescapable.
This really gets to the heart of the problem. You see, this wasn't a failure of motivation. Someone giving her a pep talk about budgeting would have just been more noise. What she actually needed was space, some breathing room, and a clear, simple plan that didn't just pile more urgency on top of an already crushing weight. And that was the real fear, wasn't it? It wasn't just the debt itself, but the vulnerability that comes with it. She was terrified of someone seeing her desperation, smelling that stress in the air, and deciding to call it leverage, cornering her into a bad deal she just couldn't afford to make. Okay, so this is where the story takes a turn. We're moving away from the problem and toward the very beginning of a solution, one that's built on a pretty radical idea, a plan instead of more pressure.
She gets a recommendation for a home solutions company, and this is how they're described. Just think about how powerful these three simple statements are. They don't push, they explain. Instead of creating confusion, they create clarity. And by putting everything in writing, they create transparency, a real, tangible path forward.
You know how it is, right? In so many high-pressure situations, time is used as a weapon. This offer's only good for 24 hours, or you have to decide right now. Well, this company, they did the exact opposite. They didn't create scarcity, they gave her abundance. They gave her the one thing she desperately needed: time to think. Now, this is such a powerful and frankly honest promise. There's no magic wand here. They're not pretending they can just undo the past. Instead, the focus is entirely on the future, on building a single, manageable, clean next step. It's all about moving forward, not getting stuck looking back.
So, what did this clean next step actually look like in practice? Well, it wasn't some magic formula. It was a framework, and it was built entirely on knowledge. It laid out all her options, the real timelines for each one, and the honest-to-goodness trade-offs. This whole approach is designed to do just one thing: give the person in crisis a sense of control back, to empower them.
So when that written plan finally showed up, the most important part wasn't just what was in it, it was what was missing. There was no shame, no judgment, no manufactured drama. It was just pure, simple, objective clarity. And man, that alone can feel like a lifeline. Which brings us to our final act. Now that she has this clarity, Ray has a choice to make. This is about finding the one path that will finally let her breathe again. The formal offer they made her, it was built on the exact same principles from that very first phone call. Every little detail was designed to take away fear and uncertainty. The assumptions were laid out in plain English. A lawyer handled the official parts, which made the timeline predictable. And maybe most importantly, the whole thing wasn't coded in that toxic layer of urgency. And here it is, the decision. And notice how it's described, not in financial terms, but in physical, vital ones. She didn't just choose a plan. She chose the path that let her breathe again. She chose oxygen.
And the results, well, they weren't just on paper or in her bank account. The real change was felt in her own body. This feeling of just being able to be, to sit still without that constant sense of impending doom, that is such a profound sign of peace. The mental relief literally showed up physically.
And this is the last powerful line of our story. Her entire nervous system had been on high alert, constantly scanning the horizon for the next threat, the next bad news. And now, It could finally stand down. The war was over. She had found her breathing room.
So as we leave Ray's story, the question kind of turns back to us. We've seen that clarity, it isn't just about information. It's about the absence of shame, it's about the gift of time, and it's about having the space to just breathe. And it makes you ask, right? In our own lives, when we're facing that kind of pressure, what does a true path to clarity really look like for us?